Flexi-nylon process. Flexible nylon-based unbreakable thermoplastic. Suitable for partial dentures combined with flexible clasps, flexible partial dentures combined with metal frameworks, flippers. Can be relined and repaired with the same flexible material using the Fuse liquid primer technique. General instructions. Impressions. We recommend taking impressions with individual trays. Alinate impression materials are recommended for partial dentures to minimize compression of alveolar mucosa and muscle formations. Pour type 3 or type 4 plaster to create the master model. Produce the wax bite blocks in a wire-reinforced baseplate. Setup. Use acrylic artificial teeth. Avoid the use of composite artificial teeth, which can break under injection process pressure. Grind the acrylic teeth only as much as necessary, leaving enough room for the thermoplastic denture base material to attach the acrylic tooth, and large enough for the retention holes. Pay special attention to the necks of the acrylic tooth, which should be not too protrusive and must be placed in harmony with the clasped tooth, keeping in mind the aesthetics of the end product. After setup and modeling, the denture is ready for try-in. Try-in may be made on the reinforced wax base. The try-in will not be retentive, but should provide accurate checking of correct bite and shade of the acrylic teeth. Make putty matrix blocks and clean out the wax from the master model and the acrylic teeth. Designing and preparing the model for duplication. With a red pencil, mark around the outlines of the denture, design the clasps, and block out with wax if there are extreme retentive areas, lingual undercut formation around clasped tooth, inner surface roughness. If there is palatal lingual surface roughness in the tooth or gingival area, the necklines of the tissue should be relieved with wax. In free end upper or lower cases, do not remove the distal undercut of the last natural tooth. If necessary, some blocking can be made on the distal undercuts before the free saddle, but some undercuts should be left to allow the case to snap on into position. For free end saddle cases with anterior teeth replacement, undercuts in the front section should be blocked with wax. All undercuts affecting the path of insertion should be blocked out, but less than conventional blockout for metal frameworks. Undercuts in the buccal and distal that are engaged for retention should not be relieved, except where more rigid junction points would cause some irritation for the patient. Duplicating the master model. After the model has been designed and prepared, an accurate stone duplicate model must be made. Place the master model in water to soak for 10 minutes. Melt Perflex Geliflex all-purpose concentrated gelatin for duplicating, or gelatin suitable for gypsum stone. See video with instructions for how to use Geliflex. Melt the gelatin in a microwave for 10 minutes at full power, and cool the gelatin by stirring with a spatula under a ventilator to speed up cooling. When the gel has cooled down to 52 to 57 degrees Celsius, or 125 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, to pouring temperature, pour the gel and allow it to cool in the duplicating flask for 20 minutes before placing it in a water bath for an additional 20 minutes for final setting. After the gel has cooled and set completely, remove the master model carefully, making sure no wax or other deposits remain that may affect the duplicate. Pour in a well-mixed type 3 stone and allow it to set completely. Remove the duplicate stone model, trim, and examine carefully for distortions and discrepancies with the master model. If the duplicate is perfect, dry the model. Retrace the design line again with the red pencil, watercolor red pencil. Place the putty blocks in position on the duplicate model and check again if there is a small gap between the gum and the root area of the teeth to ensure retention. If necessary, grind from the acrylic tooth and adjust. Put the acrylic teeth back on the putty matrix and stick the artificial acrylic tooth to the duplicated model with hot pink modeling wax. Flexi-nylon waxing partial denture. Model the denture and the clasps thinner than for acrylic dentures. Flexi-nylon flexible nylon-type thermoplastic material can be designed with a typical design for flexible dentures or conventional dentures. Clasp thickness 1.2 millimeters, 3 to 5 millimeters high, and the final thickness of the denture after polishing should be not less than 1 to 1.5 millimeters. Use prefabricated forms as palatal wax form. Keep thickness uniform. Keep anatomy natural. Type of clasps for FlexiNylon. Spur clasp, divided clasp in 2 parts from mesial and distal, spur type. Conventional clasps, double clasp. Place the waxed model in water, investing the bottom half of the flask. Take the waxed model out of the water. Spread oil onto the flask and invest the half flask with Type 3 plaster. When the plaster hardens, grind the retentive areas of the plaster stone. Sprueing. Position the sprue and vents. Using a round red sprue, 5 mm diameter, make 3 single sprues, 1 in the middle and 1 on either side, right and left. Fill the gap between the round sprue and the stone with wax. Create some ventilation wax sprues to let the air bubbles escape. The sprue wax should be connected to the wax-up. Place in a water bath for 15 minutes. Investing the top half of the flask. Close the upper part of the flask with 2 bolts into the diagonal holes and pour Type 3 plaster stone into the second half flask. Boiling out. When the plaster has hardened completely, unscrew the flask before putting in the boil-out tank for 8 to 10 minutes. Open the flask. Wash out the wax using dish soap and clean with additional boiling water to be sure all residue is eliminated. After you have carefully removed stone chips remaining around the sprue hole or other openings, allow the 2 halves to cool. Retentions. Remove the artificial acrylic teeth from the flask and produce diatoric retentions, 1 in the center of the tooth with drill number 12, and a mesial distal connection should then be drilled with drill number 9, medium thickness, or number 5, fine, connecting with the center hole and avoiding any visible openings on the facial or occlusal surfaces of the teeth. Make 2 holes in the artificial tooth that is holding a clasp. Make an engraved line or small hole with a number 5 drill in the lingual part of the acrylic tooth for additional retention. Glue the artificial acrylic into the gypsum cavities with FN cement adhesive, available at Perflex, using just a very small amount to secure the teeth so that they do not move during injection process. Place 2 coats of isolating separator Isosep glaze, available at Perflex, on the plaster surfaces corresponding to the denture area only. Close the flask with 4 screws, manually. Now the flask is ready for injection. Injecting FlexiNylon. FlexiNylon requires a cold flask process. Inject with cold flask. Choose the correct size and color of cartridge. Colors available for FlexiNylon. Translucent shades: natural, light pink, standard pink, purple pink, Meharry. Perflex cartridges are 25 mm in diameter, but other sizes, such as 28 mm, medium, and large, are also available. Long cartridge: small, medium, large, and extra large for full dentures. At Perflex, it is also possible to buy the materials in 200 grams and 1 kilogram bulk jars, and cartridges of all sizes are sold separately and can be closed with a special pliers tool available at Perflex. Small cartridge for a flipper or repair, 10 grams. Partial denture, medium cartridge, 18 grams. Large partial cases with large cartridge, 28 grams. Extra large cartridge for a large full case, 31 grams. Perflex cartridges are already dry and sealed in the individual aluminum bags and ready to use. They must be stored in a cool, dry place. Our cartridges can be re-dried when needed in a constant-on function commercial or non-commercial dryer, such as an oven or toaster, at 40 to 60 degrees Celsius, 160 degrees Fahrenheit, or 6 hours. Open the nitrogen container or air compressor and adjust the time and temperature on the controller for the specific type of material. Injecting FlexiNylon with Smart 101 to 260 degrees Celsius. 11 minutes, 9.5 bar, cold flask process. Programming the injection parameters. Press P on the thermocontroller to set the temperature to 260 degrees Celsius. Press P again. It will show ATE 100. This parameter is the speed of heating and does not need to be changed. Press P. It will show TSP. Set the time to 11 minutes. Press P again to activate the machine. Yes means on. Press P again to see the temperature rising. When the furnace reaches 260 degrees Celsius, insert the lubricated cartridge tube with its cap facing outwards into the furnace and the stamped part inside. Press to start the external timer for 11 minutes. Close the flask with 4 screws, manually or with a pneumatic machine, and place into the injector machine. Place the closed flask into the injector 5 minutes before injection. Close the handle gently and close the safety protection door. When the external alarm sounds at 11 minutes, press the button to inject. Set the external timer for 5 minutes. Leave the flask inside the injector to cool under pressure when the furnace is switched off for 5 minutes. Release the flask from the injector by pressing the button again. Open the black handle of the Smart 101-260 till the end stop. Always keep the door closed. Press the button again to release the flask and remaining cartridge. Take the flask out using heat protection gloves and bench cool for approximately 30 minutes. The flask should still be a little warm for the opening process. Close the door. Press the button again to insert the piston back and switch off the machine by pressing the red button. The machine temperature should reach 150 degrees Celsius before activating again for a new injection. Unscrew the bolts from the flask, hit the flask with a hammer in the stone area on both sides of the flask, and open the flask. Hit in the middle of the stone and open. Remove all remaining stone with plaster scissors. Finishing. Carefully cut off all the sprues using a 3-sided cutter or a diamond disc fiber cutter. Reduce the area around the sprue junction. Reduce the pallet or lingual connector overall, and trim the edges and the periphery extensions using a coarse jumbo diamond carbide available at Perflex. Fitting the case. To relieve the uprights of any inside portion of the case, use a grinding stone or carbide burr. Use a red 8-micron ultra-thin articulating film to mark interferences for insertion and fit the denture in the model. Grind carefully without losing retention. The case should snap into position. Pre-polishing. Smooth the entire surface of the appliance with the medium and fine diamond burrs. Rubberize all the external parts of the denture with gray rubber burrs, green wheels, and green points. A light motion will allow you to obtain a smooth surface. Use a sharp number 15 scalpel to remove any edges or strings, as well as to carve a clean edge around the necklines around the artificial teeth. Once the case is rubberized, it is ready for polishing. Polishing. The Perflex starter kit contains a polishing kit, including 3 rug wheels, a small brush for final luster and cleaning of the appliance, 1 pound Polyfast special pumice for all kind of plastics, a blue pre-polish bar compound, and a white bar compound, final high polish bar. Apply the Polyfast pumice with a wetted rag wheel. Polyfast should be very liquid and should always be kept liquid if dry. With a properly rubberized surface, the pumice step should take a bit longer than for acrylics. Always use the appropriate rag for the different polishing compounds. Use the Blue Star compound to obtain a smooth but dull finish with a rag wheel. Dip the case in water from time to time to avoid excessive heating on the surface of the appliance. A final high luster as for acrylics can be obtained using Perflex white polishing bar compound with a dry rag wheel. initially at a low speed and then at a higher speed, pressing against the surface of the case. All polishing residues can be removed while also clearing out deposits in the interproximals by using the round brown brush with no polishing compounds. Clean and disinfect the case in an ultrasonic bath containing FlexiClean denture cleaner, or wash the case thoroughly to remove all particles and residue left over from the polishing compounds. If necessary, adjust the polish and check once more for any discrepancies to adjust polish or aesthetic aspects. Packing the Perflex case for delivery. Perflex cases should not be delivered in water. After the disinfecting procedure, put the case in the Perflex branded bag provided with your material. In addition to the bags, each cartridge has instructions attached for using FlexiClean concentrated denture cleaner for proper maintenance of the Perflex appliance by the patient.